Hi guys, I want to show you a super quick, easy arrangement to do. Don't worry, it don't take a lot of skill. I promise you're not going to mess anything up. I want to first start by saying please use a knife, not scissors, when you're cutting into your flowers. Think about your flower stems kind of like a bunch of straws. And if you cut them with a knife, you get a nice clear cut so they can keep on drinking. And if you snip them with scissors, then you're going to smash all the little tubes that are in those poor flowers, and they're not going to drink anymore. On hard things like your greens, it's fine if you need to use clippers, but when it comes to the flowers, please use a knife. Also, I'm designing into floral foam, and there's two different kinds. There's one for dry flowers and one for wet flowers, so make sure you get wet. Let it soak overnight. Don't just pour some water over it right before you're about to work, because it really has to totally absorb all the way to the middle. And I always tie down my floral foam. I use tape that's made for floral work. You don't have to. I have seen people use regular Scotch tape, but that way once you get all heavy with the flowers on it, you're not going to have to worry about it tipping or whatever you have it in. If somebody tips it, it's not going to fall out on the floor and crash all your flowers. So anyways, flowers from the grocery store, please, you do not have to go and spend a fortune. Most grocery stores now have flower bunches. It's like 3 bunches for $10, and 1 bunch is normally 10 stems. So flowers from the grocery store are great. And as far as greens go, a lot of times I pick greens out of my garden and yard and so on. I've got elephant leaves out of my yard. I have ligustrum growing in my yard. I've got camphor trees. If you're not familiar with what you have growing in your yard, please don't just go picking stuff. I'd hate to see in comments that you went and picked poison sumac and didn't know it, and yeah, that would not be good. If you don't know what's in your yard, again, those 3 for $10 bunches, most grocery stores sell the greens in the bunches too. So play it safe if you're not sure. Anyhow, we're going to get to work. I'm going to end up making this look like you've just gone out and picked a bunch of flowers and you just have flowers laying. A lot of times I make this in a basket, like the baskets you see logs in for a fireplace, where it kind of swoops up on the 2 sides and it lays open on the end. But since the holidays are coming up, I wanted to do this right here on my dining room table. So I'm going to get started. I always start with greens. Start by kind of making your layer and covering over a little bit. So I'm just going to do a basic green there to get him started, and I'm going to cut him off just a little bit. All I really need is his ends. I don't necessarily need this part. I don't want him obstructing some of the other flowers that I'm going to do. So let me just get some basic greens in the bottom here. And don't feel weird about angling. You want to cover everything. So don't always feel like you have to just, straight up and down. I'm actually angling in. I'm coming from the bottom up so that my greens are covering like this. See, coming from the bottom up. I hope you can see that in the video. Okay. All right. Use just a little bit of eucalyptus just to get this base going here. And normally I would tell you fresh cut every single piece before you put it in, but I am kind of working on a timeline, and I do have some nice small ones that I just cut right before I started, so those are going in without a fresh cut this time. Okay. I'm going to start with some daisies, and I'm actually popping off my buds, but I'm going to hold on to those, and you'll see what I'm using those for in just a little bit. I'm also holding on to my stems. So I'm going to start with my first and my longest stem. And again, like I said, you can angle, and I am angling this guy so that he's nice and flat, okay? And I'm going to flank him with a couple of Ostromeria. Again, saving my stems. Measure him out. He needs to be a little shorter. With his little heads up. So I've got a straight line going. Now I'm going to work on some sides here just a little bit. I'm going to try to pick this board up so that hopefully you can see, since I can't move my cameras. Please don't fall. See how I kind of have a triangle going here? I hope that you can see that. I've got my longest flowers and then I've filled in my two sides and I'm going to keep growing. Okay. All right, I'm going to get another layer of greens in. And I'm going to do the same thing with these greens that I did with the last one. I don't want them quite so dense. Okay. And since this is for my fall decoration, I am using some dried leaves here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick some of those in as I'm going here. I just want some little pops of those sticking out here and there. Okay. All right, let's go back to some Ostromeria here. And I gotta move my green out of the way so that I can get him where I want him. Okay, I'm filling some Ostromeria on the side here, saving my longer stems. All right, if you put a flower in and you don't like where it's at, you pull it out to put it back into a different spot, make sure that you recut it. What happens is, if you put it into your foam and then you pull it back out, your foam is going to get embedded into where you just cut your flower. So if you put it in someplace else, you're actually going to have this film of foam from the last place you put it, and it's not going to drink as good. So just go ahead and give it one more fresh cut before you put it back in the foam, and that way it really has a good chance to soak up some good water. And let me put this one in, and I'm going to hold this up again so that you can see the shape that I'm working on here still. See, I still have that triangle shape that's going on there. And I'm just building it up. So I'm making it stand up this way, but I'm still holding that triangle shape as I'm looking down at it and working on it there. I just spilled some water out on the table. No big deal. Okay. Do a little bit more daisies, and then I'm going to fill in with a little bit more of those dried flowers. I'm actually going to cut these down. Don't feel bad about cutting your flowers down. I've taught classes before to people that are just so afraid of cutting the flowers, and they end up with their flowers just sticking up so high with these long straggly stems. It's like this, you know, because they don't want to cut them. Don't feel bad about cutting them. Cut them, cut them. You can always recut, and if you go too short, well, oh well, lesson learned. You'll know how to do it the next time. It's okay. All right, I want to fill in with a few more greens. Come on, Plamosa, get out of the way there. This green leaf that I'm using is called Floral. It actually came from a flower shop. All of the flowers, like I said, you can buy them at the grocery store. It just so happens that these did come from a friend's flower shop. And this is actually her website, www.arrangements.pro. She does nothing but weddings and special occasions. Shauna is such a sweet girl. She does a great job at the weddings that she does. And I was very blessed blessed to be able to get some flowers from her, nice and fresh, direct from the wholesaler. But like I said, most of the time I do buy my flowers in the store. I'm going to add in a few more of these dried leaves since this is my fall decoration here. Where did I lay my knife? And I'm going to get back to my Ostromeria here. I love Ostromeria. It lasts so long. This is a really awesome flower to use. When you're buying Ostromeria, you actually really want to find them like this. When they look closed up, you might think that they're half dead. I just got these yesterday. They came directly from the wholesaler yesterday, and all of them were like this yesterday. I gave them a fresh cut and got them into water, and now they're starting to open up. So you see them starting to open. These will continue to open like lilies do, if you're familiar with lilies. These are an Asiatic lily, and they just look beautiful, and if you buy them when they're closed, you will easily get a week out of these if you handle them properly. Give them fresh cuts. If you're putting them in a vase, change your vase of water out. Every 2 to 3 days, I would suggest changing your water out, fresh cutting your flowers. Let's see, I want this one here. And I didn't recut him because I didn't actually put him in the foam yet. Oh, but now I did, so I gotta recut him. I didn't like how he was going in there. Okay. Daisies. I'm going to get a few daisies in here, and then I'm going to hold this up again for you. Okay. And I'm going to go back to some of these stems that I had here and fill in a few spots that I see. Just keep looking over your arrangement. Look for little spots. You can always fill back in. As long as you can reach that foam down in there, you can always fill in and add to it, which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm finding a few spots where I want just a little bit more of the daisy white showing. I love daisies. These are my favorite flowers. Gotta make sure I can find my foam. You don't want to just stuff it in there without it being in foam, or else it won't get a drink. Okay. And I'm going to lift this up for you again in just a second. I think I want to put in just a couple more of my fall leaves here. See a couple spots that I want more fall color. Alright, now this is getting pretty heavy now. I don't normally suggest picking your flowers up like this when it starts getting this heavy, but I want you to see that shape that I'm continuing with, okay? And don't mind the fact that water is going to spill on the table. I'll clean that up later. Okay, see that triangle that we have? That's what you want. You want to keep going with that triangle. Now notice that on this bottom part, I gotta set it down for just a second, it doesn't continue to get super wide. We don't want it to get so wide that we end up looking like we have an arrow. Okay, now, like I said, I want this to look like you've gone out and picked a bunch of flowers. You've brought home this big bunch of flowers and you've just laid it down here. So what I'm going to do is, this is why I've been saving all these stems. Okay, we're going to start with a piece of green. I'm going to put that piece of green. Remember your angles. You can angle up from the bottom. It doesn't always have to be stabbing in the top. So I'm going to angle it up from the bottom so that my green's actually laying down here. I'm going to trim that off just a little bit again. Okay. All right. And now I'm going to take all those stalks that I cut off. Okay. I want to make sure they have nice looking cuts on them. And I am going to put those on here. And you might think that that sounds really strange, but just wait and see what this ends up with, okay? These, obviously, you don't have to worry about whether they're cut so that they can drink water. They don't need to drink anything. I'm just cutting them more so that they'll actually go into the foam nicely, and so that the ends that are showing actually look nice. So that we have nice looking ends and not something that looks like it's all gnarled up. Okay, let's see. Is that all of my stems? Here's a couple more. Okay. Get my stems all in here. That was a tough little bugger. All right, now. You see the stems sticking out there? Okay. I'm going to fill in with a little bit of green. And this green I'm cutting pretty short because what I want to do, I want the stems to show, but I want to kind of disguise a little bit this floral foam, okay? So I'm cutting nice short greens and sticking those in there to disguise that floral foam. Making sure to get all sides. I'm also now starting to cover up that container. And by the way, that container was a Chinese takeout dish. So yet again, another area where you don't need to be spending a fortune in order to make yourself a flower arrangement. Okay. This is seeded eucalyptus. I love this stuff. Some people grow this in their yard. I don't happen to have one of these trees in my yard. They don't grow well in the area that I live in. So this was one of the things that I got from my friend again at arrangements.pro. And I'm just stuffing some of this in here. I really like the look of the seeds. I'm going to get just a couple of long pieces here. I could have done this in the beginning, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to use this for sure. And I know now that I do, so I'm just going to take a nice long piece, fill up in there so that I know that I'm in my foam. And that way I've just got some of those seeds showing out the end here. Let me do one near the front so that you can see it, because that one's kind of near the back. You might not have a good look at that. Nice cut. Okay. I'm just reaching real delicately underneath my flowers, making sure that I find my foam. You'll kind of feel it. You'll feel it because it gives a little bit of resistance, but yet you can push the stem into it. And that way I've got those nice seeds kind of hanging out there. I really like how those seeds look. All right. Fill in a spot here in the middle with a little bit of this. And same thing, just kind of parting everything there, making sure I feel my foam. Okay, and spread those seeds out. Okay, now I've got this part of the foam here that's still showing, okay? What I like about doing this style of arrangement is that you can change it around so much. Since it's fall, I've got a bow that I made. Bows are super easy to make. I'll have to do that in another video though. Once you learn how to do it, you'll be able to do it just like that and make all of your own bows. You won't have to buy them anymore. So I'm going to stick my bow right there. That is going to cover up part of my foam. Okay. And then I'm going to use, I've got a couple of gourds that I want to put in around my bow. I'm going to just place those in place here. Hopefully they'll behave themselves and kind of stay. Actually, I think I'm just going to go with 2 of them. And I also have pine cones. I was thinking about using the pine cones, but I really think I like the gourds better. If you're going to do this for Christmas, pine cones are great. Those frosted ones, do a nice red bow, or you can totally skip the bow. Do over the top of your foam with round, just those cheap, round, shiny ornaments. Jingle bells are great. You can really, really get creative with it. Like I said, a lot of times I do this in a basket that has a little bit of sides to it. And if you're doing it in a basket with sides, maybe for somebody's birthday, you can tie some balloons on the top. Take curling ribbon and pull your knife down the curling ribbon to make it all curly. And instead of where these dried leaves are, instead put your curly cues of curling ribbon there so that you can really dress it up for a birthday as well. So now that I have that in there, I want to just kind of finish covering up that green. If somebody sits at my table, they are going to see some of that green floral foam still. So I'm going to take some more of my flowers. I am going to have just a couple flowers coming out here. Okay, I'm going to grab a couple over here and just pull off their smaller heads here. And just give, let's see, do I have another, just want a little, this guy will do. I was looking for even a smaller bud than that, but he'll work. Oops, I need him to be a little shorter. Just kind of put him down here where the stems are, okay? And I'm going to fill in with those greens. This is plumosa. I love plumosa. This actually grows out in the yard down here. I'm going to put in some of that here and there. This is a great trailing green. Once it starts growing in the yard, it'll grow up and over everything. It's kind of like kudzu. If you live in an area where kudzu is, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, a couple more pieces here. I'm going to have a hard time lifting this up, but I'm going to lift it up and try to show you the finished product here in just a minute. Let me just get a few more greens in here. Alright. I think I am going to probably just do one more piece of plumosa. I love plumosa because it's really airy, but I don't want to overdo it. Plumosa is really awesome, especially if you have roses. It really helps to soften out that hard shape of the bottom of the rose. Okay, get these out of the way. Oh, here's a nice big piece. I do like this piece. I'm going to put him in down here. Let's see if I can reach down in there and find my foam. Hopefully. There it is. You can spread that piece out nicely. Okay, I'm going to grab just a couple pieces of Floral. Get my knife here. And make sure that I'm really covered up good around this. Right here where the bow is. You guys can see this side better than I can. I hope I got that side all covered up. I normally walk around my arrangements and check all the sides, but it's kind of hard when I'm doing it like this. Let's see. Let's do a little piece of the seeded eucalyptus there. And a little piece of seeded eucalyptus on this side. Okay, I have not timed myself, but I don't think that that took a long, long time. And believe it or not, it didn't even take all the flowers. I had 10 stems of the Ostromeria, I have 3 stems left. I had 7 stems of daisies to start with, and I have 3 stems left. So I've just made this huge arrangement without even using what would have been 2 whole bunches of flowers from the grocery store. Let me get these out of the way and try to lift this up and show it to you. Lay these down a little gentler than that. Hopefully I can use those in something else. Okay. Let me see if I can lift this up without totally killing it. Please, please stay in place. And there is the whole arrangement. I hope you get a good view of that. Hope you can see that good. So visit Shauna's site, arrangements.pro, and besides doing flowers, hers is www.arrangements.pro.com, or .pro, sorry, no .com, I'm not always good at all that computer stuff. And then please visit my site. The other thing that I do besides flowers is I also sell herbal supplements. They're totally all natural, really, really good for you. So that is my website, www.deepsouthgreens.com. Check it out. Have a good night, guys. Bye.